We're diving into something incredibly powerful, transformative space where we unlock the secrets to turning your dreams into reality. You might think it's magic, but I'm here to tell you that it's a technique. When practiced every day, this technique can bring about amazing changes in your life. So let's get into it and discover how you can use this method to watch the magic happen. First, let's explore the power of your mind. Each day, we often begin our lives by following a set pattern. We wake up at the same time, go through the same morning routine, and then follow a predictable schedule throughout the day. This routine can make our lives feel very repetitive and unchanging, like we're stuck on a treadmill, running but not really getting anywhere. Imagine if you could break free from this repetitive cycle and create something truly extraordinary. It's not about waiting for a magical moment or hoping for a sudden change. Instead, it's about understanding and using a specific technique that can help you transform your life. Our minds are incredibly powerful tools. They shape our experiences and influence the way we see the world. When we live on autopilot, we let our old habits and routines control us. But when we learn how to use our mind in a different way, we can start to break free from these limitations. Think about it. Every day you have the chance to change your life. It's like having a remote control for your mind, and you can choose to change the channel from the old, predictable show to something new and exciting. By understanding and applying this technique, you can start to reshape your life in ways you never thought possible. This technique involves being aware of your thoughts and feelings and learning how to shift them. It's about creating a new pattern of thinking and feeling that aligns with the life you want to create. Instead of just reacting to life as it comes, you begin to take charge and direct your mind toward your goals. Think about it. When you were a child and you had something exciting planned, like a field trip, what happened? You jumped out of bed with enthusiasm, didn't you? You were ready and eager for the adventure that lay ahead. That's the same kind of energy we need to bring into our daily lives. Imagine waking up each day with that sense of anticipation, expecting something wonderful to happen. This excitement is a crucial element in the technique I'm going to share with you. To begin, you need to understand the connection between your thoughts and feelings. Thoughts are like electric currents in your brain. They light up specific neural networks and shape how you perceive the world. Feelings, on the other hand, are magnetic. They draw experiences and people into your life based on the energy you emit. When you combine clear, focused thoughts with elevated feelings, you create a powerful force that attracts your desires into reality. So, how do you use this technique? Start by setting aside time each day for a practice I call mental rehearsal. This practice involves creating a clear vision of what you want and emotionally connecting with that vision. It's like watching a movie in your mind where you are the star and everything you desire is coming to fruition. When you sit down for your mental rehearsal, first, get yourself into a relaxed state. You can do this by closing your eyes, taking deep breaths, and calming your mind. Once you're settled, begin to visualize your goal as vividly as possible. Imagine the details of your desired outcome. What does it look like, feel like, sound like? The more specific you are, the more effective your mental rehearsal will be. When you're visualizing your goals, it's really important to not just picture the outcome, but also to feel the emotions that come with achieving that goal. For example, if you're imagining a successful career, you should try to experience the pride, joy, and excitement that would come with that success. Why is this so important? It's because your brain doesn't actually know the difference between something that is happening in real life and something you vividly imagine. When you vividly imagine an experience and feel the emotions connected to it, your brain responds as if it is actually happening. Let's say you are visualizing getting a promotion at work. You should picture yourself in the new position, maybe giving a presentation or receiving congratulations from your colleagues. As you do this, allow yourself to feel the emotions you would experience in that situation: pride in your accomplishments, joy from the recognition, and excitement about the new opportunities. When you feel these emotions as if they are happening right now, you are essentially tricking your brain into believing that this future success is already part of your reality. This process helps to align your brain and body with the new reality you want to create. Think of it like this: when you practice a sport or a musical instrument, you often imagine yourself performing well. This mental rehearsal helps your skills improve because your brain is preparing for the real performance. Visualizing with emotions works in a similar way. By feeling the emotions associated with your goal, you are training your brain to act as if that goal is already achieved. It's not just about making a mental picture, it's about making that picture as real as possible. You want to immerse yourself in the feelings, smells, sounds, and sights of your success. If you can make the visualization feel as real as possible, your brain will start to recognize this imagined scenario as a part of your potential reality. The more often you practice this kind of emotional visualization, the more your brain will start to align with the reality you want to create. Over time, this practice can change your behavior and decisions in real life, making it easier for you to achieve your goals. For instance, if you feel the joy and excitement of success regularly, you might start to notice that you're more motivated and confident in your actions. You might take steps toward your goals with more enthusiasm and less fear. Your brain is preparing you to act in ways that are consistent with the success you are visualizing. After you finish your mental rehearsal, which is when you imagine your goals and how you want to feel, it's crucial to keep that positive, high-energy state going throughout your day. This step is really important, but it's where a lot of people face challenges. They start off feeling motivated and excited, but as the day goes on, they often slip back into their usual habits of thinking and feeling. The enthusiasm you have right after your mental rehearsal can fade quickly if you don't take steps to maintain it. This is because daily life often brings back old thought patterns and emotions. Things like stress, frustration, or routine problems can easily pull you out of the high-energy state you worked so hard to create. To help with this, it's a good idea to check in with yourself at different times during the day. This means pausing and asking yourself if you are still feeling that elevated, positive energy you started with. This can be as simple as taking a few deep breaths and assessing how you're feeling in the moment. If you find that you've drifted away from that high-energy state, don't worry. It's normal to slip out of alignment sometimes. What's important is that you take a moment to realign yourself. This means doing something to bring your energy back to where you want it to be. It could be taking a short break, practicing a quick meditation, or simply reminding yourself of the positive feelings and goals you set during your mental rehearsal. Realigning doesn't have to be a big process. It could be as quick as taking a few deep breaths or repeating a positive affirmation to get back on track. The key is to be aware of how you're feeling and make small adjustments throughout the day to stay in that positive state. The more often you check in with yourself and realign, the easier it will become to stay in the elevated state. This practice helps to reinforce the positive changes you're trying to make and keeps you focused on your goals. Over time, staying in this high-energy state will become more natural and less effortful. Remember that this is a process, and it's okay to have moments where you fall back into old patterns. The goal is not to be perfect, but to be consistent in your efforts. By regularly checking in and making small adjustments, you help create a new habit of maintaining a positive state. This practice will gradually become a part of your daily routine, and you'll find it easier to keep your energy up throughout the day. It's like training a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger and more resilient your ability to stay positive and aligned becomes. This practice of checking in and adjusting your energy helps you stay connected to your new reality. If you find yourself falling back into old habits or feeling negative emotions, take a few minutes to reset. You can do this by closing your eyes, taking a few deep breaths, and reconnecting with the elevated emotions and thoughts you cultivated during your mental rehearsal. Consistency is key. Just as you wouldn't expect to build muscle with one workout, you can't expect to transform your life with just one session of mental rehearsal. You need to make this technique a daily practice. The more consistently you apply it, the more you will notice changes in your life. You might wonder how long it takes to see results. The truth is, there's no set timeline. Some people may notice shifts quickly, while for others, it may take a bit longer. The important thing is to keep practicing with faith and patience. Remember, you are rewiring your brain and body to align with a new reality. This takes time, but the rewards are worth it. Now let's talk about the power of morning and evening routines. These times are especially potent for applying this technique. In the morning, before you start your day, set aside a few minutes to practice your mental rehearsal. This sets the tone for your day and helps you approach it with a positive, high-energy mindset. In the evening, review your day. Reflect on how you did with maintaining your elevated state and where you might have fallen short. Use this time to adjust your approach for the next day. This nightly review helps you learn from your experiences and continuously improve your technique. One of the most important things to understand about this practice is that it's not just about reaching material goals like getting a new car or a promotion at work. While these are great achievements, the real power of this technique goes beyond just these outward successes. The true value lies in how it helps you transform yourself from the inside out. When you use this technique regularly, you are not only working towards specific goals, but also making changes to who you are as a person. This process of transformation is more profound than just achieving a goal. It's about evolving into a new version of yourself, one who is more aligned with your true desires and values. Let's explore what this means in practical terms. When you start applying the technique, you begin to see shifts not just in your external world, but also within yourself. For instance, you might notice that you're more patient, more understanding, or more resilient. These changes are a result of the inner work you are doing. As you change how you think and feel, you naturally start to attract different kinds of experiences and people into your life. One major area where this transformation shows up is in your relationships. As you work on yourself and grow, you might find that your relationships become more fulfilling. You might start to connect with people on a deeper level, or find that you are able to handle conflicts more gracefully. This happens because you are becoming more in tune with your own emotions and needs, which helps you communicate better and build stronger connections with others. Another significant change you might experience is an increase in happiness. When you are working on transforming yourself, you are likely to feel more content and satisfied with your life. This is because you are not only achieving your goals, but also growing in ways that bring you more joy and fulfillment. As you become more aligned with your true self, you might find that you have a greater sense of peace and happiness in your daily life. Along with improved relationships and greater happiness, this transformation also leads to a deeper sense of purpose. When you are clear about your goals and are working on transforming yourself, you start to understand what truly matters to you. This understanding can give you a stronger sense of direction and meaning in your life. You might find that you are more motivated to pursue your passions and make choices that align with your values. This technique is not about forcing or manipulating outcomes. It's about aligning yourself with the energy of your desires. When you maintain this alignment, you create a magnetic field that attracts what you want naturally. The universe responds to your energy and brings opportunities and experiences that match your elevated state. So practice this technique with dedication and an open heart. Embrace the process and trust that the changes you seek are unfolding. You're not just making things happen, you're becoming someone who naturally attracts the life you desire. Personal reality called their life. Which means then if you want to create a new personal reality, you got to change your personality. And that means you got to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and change it. Look at your unconscious habits and behaviors, what you say, what you do, and become conscious of it and change them. And look at the emotions that have kept you anchored to the past and decide if those emotions belong in your future. I think the biggest problem is that most people try to create a new personal reality as the same personality, and it doesn't work. So then as we begin to demystify this, the person starts to say, oh my God, the disease that I have is because it's connected to this personality. Is it possible that if I change my personality, just like a person with a multiple personality disorder who has an allergy to nylon stockings in one personality and type 1 diabetes in another, is it possible then, if I change my personality, that the disease exists in the old personality and I'm literally someone else? Is it possible then from a biological standpoint that they're healed and changed? So to answer the question, it's difficult because we're breaking out of a biological mold. It's difficult because most people don't know that they have within their reach all the tools to do it because they have, number 3, been conditioned on some level to believe that the new hairstyle or the new type of beer they're going to drink or the sports car or whatever it is going to change their state. And that's the hypnosis. And when I wrote The Placebo, You Are the Placebo, the biggest thing that I walked away with after writing that book was how hypnotized and programmed we really are. And that's bothered me ever since I wrote the book because people watch things in their external environment and they accept, believe, and surrender to that information without any analysis, and they're programmed. If you look at quantum physics, the physics of possibility, it's really talking about the spiritual aspect of ourselves. Because you couldn't explain a miracle. You couldn't explain a biological process. You couldn't explain a simple healing of a cut at this point without understanding the quantum model of reality and that there are particles which are matter. It's you and I and everything in this physical world. And then there's energy. And that energy has a consciousness. It has an awareness. And that energy is a field of information that we are an extension of, that we have access to, and that we spend so much of our life looking outside of ourselves instead of looking inside of ourselves, and that we are really conditioned to look just for particles and matter instead of energy and information. And truly, when people reach the end of their beliefs or they're facing crisis in their life, that's the moment they start to turn within and start to ask the bigger questions. And if you were astute enough to look at this in moments of contemplation, if you were wanting to hide God anywhere, it would be a good place to hide. It would be within the human being, because everybody's looking outside of themselves, and we look for reasons to change and regulate our emotional states. You know, we think that things and people and external things will really fulfill emotions that we're trying to change within us, and that truly when we start to really investigate who we are and look to see how we do that and demystify it, I think once we start to demystify it, it can become a skill. And so Einstein was a super cool guy because he spent a lot of time inward. And at 12 years old, he asked himself this simple question: if I ride my bicycle at the speed of light and I turn my lamp on, I turn my headlight on, will it go on? So he thought about that question every single day of his life, every day of his life. He would go out in a boat on a lake as a child and lay on his back in the boat and look up at the sky and think about this. And he was building models of understanding. He was working his best to be able to figure out how light and energy were related. He did it for 10 years. He was possessed by the concept. And finally, he was working as a third-rate clerk in a Swiss patent office, and he was watching this man fix the roof across the way. And he just paused for a moment, and he was watching him, and the moment he was watching him, he got this incredible vision, and he understood how light and energy were related. It was a very abstract vision, and it was so abstract and so dimensional that he had to go back to school to learn the mathematics to be able to explain what he saw. And his wife His first wife was an amazing scientist, and she helped him with a lot of the mathematics. And so when Einstein began to figure it out, he narrowed it down to that one simple equation that E equals mc squared, energy and matter related, and the currency converter is the speed of light. And so it became very interesting because when Einstein published his papers on relativity, he didn't say like, hey, this person said this and this person said this, and I'm going to footnote this person. He just said, ladies and gentlemen, this is how it is. And it rocked the scientific community because he didn't really need anybody else as a reference. He had a discovery, and his discovery was so unique, and his brain really was wired for the understanding of light, and light was the ceiling of this reality. And so Einstein and Planck started doing these really interesting experiments where they were taking energy and they were putting energetic impulses into metals. And what they were looking to see is if electrons behave the same way as the very large. In other words, when an apple falls from the tree, it falls in a very specific way. It falls towards the center. It falls towards the larger body. So he reasoned, well, if we disturb electrons, and him and Planck were doing these experiments, if we disturb these electrons, then they should fall just like an apple falling from the tree towards the nucleus. It should be predictable, just like it's predictable in Newtonian physics and classical physics. Well, when they started disturbing the electrons, something very unusual happened. The electron gained energy, then it lost energy, and it gained energy, and it lost energy, and it gained energy, and it lost energy. And instead of it falling like a ball rolling down a hill, it was like a ball rolling down steps. All of a sudden, they became very aware that the subatomic world, the very tiny, didn't behave like the very large world. And so then they started to look for the electron. They started to try to measure it. And everywhere they looked for it, it appeared. And when they turned their back on it and they no longer looked to measure it, it went from a particle that collapsed, called collapsing the wave function, back into energy. Now, this was a revolutionary moment because this meant that subjective mind, your mind, has an effect on the objective world, that mind and matter are somehow correlated. And so this birth of quantum physics came along, and this quantum physics experiment say that you cannot do a quantum physics experiment without an observer around. In other words, a mind always has to be present because it will influence the outcome. You with me? So now that invisible field of spirit, that invisible field of information and energy, somehow you as an individual can influence the nature of reality with your mind. So now Einstein had a lot of trouble with this because he said, God doesn't play dice and it doesn't work like this, but his brain was wired for light. And so he had the abstraction and he was getting the download of information, understanding the field of light. And the quantum physicists were saying, well, actually, there's a field of information beyond space and time, beyond light, where everything is unified. You can take two photons that have been somehow related in a specific atom and shoot them to the opposite ends of the universe. And the moment you affect one photon at the exact same time, the other one is affected. So they were being connected or affected in a realm faster than the speed of light. In other words, it would take time if you affected one for the other one to be affected. But if they were beginning to be affected at the exact same time, they were connected in a realm beyond physical reality. Are you with me? And so when the movie What the Bleep came out, and we basically made an effort to show that your mind has an effect on reality, and that in order for you to begin to change your reality, you got to change your mind and change the way you live your life. And we wanted people to become inspired by the process of creation, really give it a shot, and that independent of your gender, of your race, of the color of your skin, of your intellectual ability, independent of your past, independent of your age, that on some level we are all divine creators, and that these models of reality that have separated individuals have all been built on human beings living in a very limited state of mind. And so when quantum physics was born and the whole concept of reality began to unfold, people started to really challenge the nature of reality and that concept that you are somehow connected because you are made of photons and atoms and electrons. that on some level you are an organization, a community of 70 trillion to 120 trillion cells, and all of those cells are made up of atoms and molecules and chemicals. And all of those are working in a coherent form to express yourself as a physical body. But most people don't know that they're moving in and out of the quantum field 7.8 times per second, that you're vibrating in and out of the field all the time. And every time you leave, you disappear. And when you come back, you disappear into that field of information and you come back with information. But if you go out as the same person, you don't bring any new information back. Are you with me? And if you can begin to observe a vision that represents a future and you can hold steadfast to that vision and you can see that vision clearly in your mind, and every day you understand where you place your attention is where you place your energy, then you would be investing your energy into the future. And the image that you see could literally be the template for trillions and trillions of atoms to organize into patterns of information called an event in your life. And so, but it's not enough to just have a clear intention, because clear intentions have very little effect on the nature of reality. That the driving force that couples the co-maiden, the handmaiden to all of that is an elevated emotion. And so when you combine that clear intention with an elevated emotion, it is the elevated emotion that begins to amplify the field around your body. And in that moment, you become more energy and less matter. And if you understand then that the emotion then is the handmaiden to the creative process, that means that you would have to feel whole before your healing. That would mean that you would have to feel abundance before your wealth. That means you would have to feel all before the mystical moment. That means you'd have to feel love before your new relationship. The same choices lead to the same behaviors. Same behaviors create the same experiences. The same experiences produce the same emotions. Those same emotions tend to influence the way we think. And our biology, our neurocircuitry, our neurochemistry, our hormones, and even our gene expression is equal to how we think, how we act, and how we feel. And how you think, how you act, and how you feel is called your personality. And your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. So then it makes sense then, if you want to create a new personal reality, a new life, you're going to have to change your personality. And you've got to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and change it. You've got to become aware of your unconscious habits and behaviors, even how you speak. Then you have to look at the emotions that you live by every single day and decide, do these emotions belong in my future? So many people try to create a new life as the same person. In order to create a new personal reality, you've got to change your personality. So the principle in neuroscience says that nerve cells that fire together wire together. Thinking the same way, making the same choices, demonstrating the same actions, creating the same experiences that stamp the same networks of neurons into the same patterns, all for the familiar feeling called you. And you do that for 10 years in a row, you're going to hardwire your brain into a very finite signature because you're firing and wiring that way. And that box in the brain, that becomes our personality, becomes our identity. And by the time we're 35 years old, for the most part, we've done something so many times that the body now knows how to do it, as well as the mind. And that's a habit. So we have these unconscious programs of behaviors, automatic habits, redundant emotional reactions, hardwired beliefs, perceptions, attitudes that function just like a computer program. You press go and it runs automatically. So then when it comes time to change, thinking positively is going to do nothing because your body has been conditioned for the most part into a program in the past. So the thought never makes it to the body because the body's on a different program. So how do we begin to influence the body so that the thought actually produces some type of change? So think about it. If you think an unhappy thought, you're going to feel unhappy. If you think you're a failure, you're going to feel like a failure. Once you feel like a failure, you're going to think you're a failure. And people get caught in these loops of thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking. And that redundancy is a conditioning process because all you need is an image or a picture or a thought and a feeling, a response, stimulus response. And so the people tend to condition their brain and body into the past. And so when it comes time to change, you got to leave that familiar territory. And any choice that you make, if you said, hey, I'm going to eat a better diet, I'm going to wake up early and work out, I'm going to do meditation, the moment you decide to do something differently, get ready because it's going to feel uncomfortable, it's going to feel unfamiliar, there's going to be some uncertainty, you're not going to be able to predict the next moment. That means you've left your known biology and you're stepping into the unknown. Now, theoretically, that sounds great, but if the body has been conditioned into a familiar feeling, it's in the known. The moment you take it outside the familiarity, it wants to go back to where it's comfortable. So the body starts influencing the mind. And this is where people say, I want you to start your diet tomorrow. Oh, why don't you start working out this evening? You're really never going to change. You're too tired. You have a headache. This doesn't feel right. And this is where people talk themselves out of it. Because if they respond to that thought leads to the same choice, which leads to the same behavior, creates the same experience, produces the same feeling. And then they say, this feels right. No, that feels familiar. So going from one state of mind and body to another state of mind and body, you got to cross a river. And the hardest part about change is not making the same choice as you did the day before. Now, once people understand that they're going to be uncomfortable, then the question is, what thoughts do you want to fire and wire in your brain? What behaviors will you demonstrate in one day? And the act of closing your eyes and rehearsing who you're going to be when you open your eyes begins to install neurological hardware in your brain to look like you've already done it.